Hello everybody, it's Max McAllister back with another chapter in Cycle with Max, and this is Better Group Riding Techniques, video number 5. Today we're going to talk about, I've been doing some stuff that's kind of factual and, preemptive sort of basis stuff, but now I'm going to do something that you can sort of apply to your riding. I figure we'll get to some more actual riding type stuff today. So today we're going to talk about climbing as a group, descending as a group, and pace. So some quick commentary on pace. So as you show up at a group ride, if you've been to a group ride, there'll be a typically recognized pace that the group is going to go, meaning average miles per hour, and you'll know the distance. It's not likely you're going to go to a ride and not know how far you're going or how fast the group's going to go. So an important thing about that is two important things. One is know your ability and know your capability of what group you're going to ride in. If you have any doubts, always ride down a group until you're certain you can hold that pace, keep your physical attributes together, ride safely, and then advance a group if you're able to ride fast enough. But once the group is actually moving down the road, things about pace are actually really important. So people, when they sign up for a ride, they're going to get in that group and they're going to expect that group to do that pace. A lot of times that doesn't work out. Usually the pace seems to end up going faster than people will claim to do. Now, so the problem with that is there's a guy I know in the motorcycle racing world who came up with this thing he called the Big Mac theory of how a motorcycle racing event should be run. And basically his concept was, anywhere you go in the world, if you walk into a McDonald's and order a Big Mac, you're expecting to get 2 all beef patty, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun, right? And when you order that and you don't get that, then you're disappointed or you're not happy. So when it comes to a ride, hopefully you find a group that does ride the pace they claim and doesn't alter it much. Now, things that happen to screw that up are, and you as a rider can be part of that, making it good or bad. So your job is to make sure that you help the group maintain the pace while you're in the group. So if you happen to move through towards the front of the group and and you get a chance to pull a group or lead the group, you need to make sure you don't accelerate and pull the pace up. So if you're a strong rider and you're riding in a group that's below your fitness or skill level, you don't need to come to the front of the group and prove how powerful you are by picking the pace up a mile an hour or 2 mile an hour average, because all those people in the group, they didn't sign up for that. So you're going to be blowing them up, and that's not fair to them. Holding that steady pace is important. Maintaining the pace of the group. Also important not to drag the group down. So if you've bit off more than you can chew, you're riding in a group that's too fast for you. It's unreasonable of you to expect 20 riders or 40 riders to slow down because your writing checks your legs can't cash. So important to pick the right group and hold the pace, and so that everybody gets the experience that they signed up for. Right now, climbing and descending. Now we're going to talk about climbing and descending actually as a group that's riding as a group. Now, not a group where you sign up for a big ride and there's 2,000 riders and nobody's there necessarily working together as a group, and also not a free-for-all ride where it's just kind of people that are following a route. Let's say we're starting out with 20 riders who are going to do a ride as a group. That's the reference we're talking about here. And what we're working for here is for you to learn the skills to be able to ride in those groups effectively. So what we're going to talk about is, truthfully, a lot of this stuff is how expert riders will function as a group. So your goal as a beginner or an intermediate rider is to improve your skills and improve your riding ability so that eventually you can ride in better groups. And, you know, unfortunately, the most skilled riders and the safest rides are actually with expert riders. But the problem is not everybody ever necessarily gets quick enough or strong enough to ride in those groups. So it's unfortunate, in my opinion, that everybody doesn't get to experience a high caliber and quality of ride, basically because in order to do that, like I said, you've got to be able to go a certain amount of fast to see it or to be part of it. So talking about climbing and descending. Descending is easier to talk about first because it's it's more brief. So when a group is descending, you want to stay in the shape of the group. So it's a very beginner, novice, amateur thing to just pull out a line and coast past a group. That just looks bad. It's bad etiquette. Everybody looks at you like, what's that idiot doing? And a lot of times you'll see bigger riders do it. And bigger riders will say, oh, I need to get going down the hill as fast as I can so that I can get up the other side. We're going to talk about that. A good group goes down the hill together, goes down a hill together, and goes up a hill together. Whether you're big, little, small, tall, short, whatever you weigh, if the groups weren't riding as a group, they're going to get everybody up and down the hills together. All right? So the first thing you'll say is, you'll hear beginner or amateur cyclists say is, why are we holding our brakes while we're going down the hill? Well, that means it's actually working. You're in a line because you're drafting, and you're drafting so that you work less. That's the whole idea. So if you happen to be in a line of bicycles going down a hill and you're pulling your brakes, you should be, basically, because somebody up in the front is doing the work. Now, if you look up front through the group and you see the person on the front is pedaling, okay, that means they're actually working pretty hard. If they're pedaling down a hill, they're working hard, and you should not be using the draft to then just pull out and make a big mess on the road and just break up the group and mess everything up. So stay in line, use your brakes as needed to hold your position relative to place in the line. Now, so in general, when there's a group of cyclists all lined up, okay, what we're trying to do is all save energy so that eventually at some point as riders rotate off, the next person does a share of the work and everyone's kind of technically resting behind the riders that are in the front. Well, so what happens is when one person moves out of this line and moves up here, so now we have a whole new situation here. There was one rider in the wind doing the work. Now there's one rider in the wind, two riders in the wind, and a third rider effectively now not getting the same drafting effect as he would have had before. So now this one person, by being a jerk and pulling out a line and trying to coast past the group, has now put three people into the wind. So if you feel super fast and you feel like the group's gone too slow for you, you feel free to go on up there to the front and pull the group down the road. Nobody will mind, I'm certain. So if you're in line and you're coasting and you have to drag your brakes, then enjoy it. That's the benefit. You're resting. You're waiting for your turn to get to the front and do some work. All right, so that's descending. Stay in line, hold your place relative to the other bikes. All right, now let's talk about climbing. Whole bunch more to talk about here. So I'm going to read some stuff here first. So typically going down the road, groups ride two abreast. That's legal, and it's typically the accepted fashion for groups riding down the road. Now, short of the exception where you come to a hill, certain groups on certain rides will have places where they'll have a sprint point or a certain hill where it's kind of a free-for-all for people to attack one particular hill. Then that's okay. That's what that group does. But we're going to talk about an actual grade or an extended hill where the group is moving, is the riders want to move as a group and get up the hill as a group. Okay, so in this instance, there's really no passing, and good groups will tend to, if they're doing any type of rotation, the rotation will stop on a climb, and whoever's on the front will typically tend to pull the group up the climb, and then resume rotation possibly after that. But basically, everyone, once they get on the climb, works to hold their relative place in line. Okay, so climbing 2 abreast. My pen's no good here. I'm going to change pins. There, this one's better. So we're 2 abreast and we're climbing up a hill here. So, important things to know. You want to hold your relative position, okay? So, 2 things that happen that are both negative. First is people start dropping off and creating gaps in the group. So, this rider is falling back. Actually, let's pretend this guy can't keep pace. So now you'll start creating this shift in the line, and this creates a problem. So these riders behind you, they don't know how bad you're going to fall back, or if you're going to be able to keep your place or not. Okay, so you got to hold that wheel in front of you. It's very important. Now, if you feel like you're not going to be able to hold your place in line, then you need to get out of the line. And there's a safe way to do that. And so, first of all, never stop pedaling, okay? So all these people behind you, everyone's pulling up the hill, and you're working hard, and you're trying to get up the hill as a unit. So you need to never stop pedaling. You need to point out to the road that you're going to exit. Try and look back and let somebody know that you're going to exit the group. And while pedaling, move to the side, okay? And once you've moved to the side, obviously people are going to know to close the gap. But, this creates a difficult situation, so you want to try and avoid it. Sometimes it's unavoidable, and you're not going to be able to make the climb at the pace of the group. But so now you've opened a gap that these guys all have to bridge. These riders have to bridge up. They're not going to be happy about that. But it's more important that you do it sooner than later if you're not going to be able to stay in the line. You're going to do it sooner than later. The last thing these people want is you to create a big gap and then say, okay, now I can't take it anymore, I'm getting out, because now you got a big gap for them to close. So real bad etiquette to do that. Now, by the time you're coming to a big climb and you're riding in a group, you're going to kind of know where you're at fitness-wise at that time in that group. Now, if you signed up to ride in a group that is pressing your skill and physical limits, you're going to know when you come to a climb, you may already be struggling to breathe, you may be working hard, your heart rate may be elevated. If that's the case, you're going to know that you're going to be in trouble on that climb. If you have any concern at all that you're going to get up the climb with the group, always ride in the left-hand line. So this is our curb here, all right? And our group is riding on the right-hand half of the right-hand side of the roadway, all right? So you should ride, if you have any doubt that you're going to get up the climb with the group, always ride in the left line, that left line of riders, that way you can exit. The worst thing you can do on a climb is to be in the right line and start dropping back and messing the group up. So as you start pulling the right line back, you're doing 2 bad things. First of all, again, you're creating stress for all these riders behind you, and now there's not going to be a pathway for you to exit the line. So this gap you're just going to create a big mess here. And so then you're in a very difficult situation where you almost have to ask someone in the left line to drop back to give you a hole to get out, right? And then now they've got a gap they got to make up. So if you're confident you can make the climb and you're comfortable, be in any line you want, but the right line is fine. If you're not certain you're going to make it, always be in the left line. This guy is creating this rider's creating big troubles. Now, riding down the road, you may be, say you're out on a big group ride, an organized ride, and you might be with 2 or 3 people here or whatever. Say you're out by yourself or 1 or 2 other riders with somebody, and you're just riding along. And there's a big group coming along behind you at a quicker pace. If you're aware of those riders, it's just a courtesy to move over here. Okay, just move on over. Let the big group come through, and so that they stay organized. That's what a courteous rider would do. Okay, nothing worse than this. The group's coming along, and there's just people farting around, not paying attention, or they're a lot of times on big group rides, people will go out ahead of the ride to get a head start. So now faster groups come steaming along. So 2 or 3 people are out here screwing around in the road, and you're going to force this whole group to snake around you. It's just kind of inconsiderate. Always best to not disrupt the group. That's the general etiquette. Don't disrupt the group while cycling. Now, that's particularly true on climbing. So, let's see. Now, if you're riding along down the road, 2 or 3 guys, and you come across another rider, you will typically pass on the left, and you would call that out, right? So, but what you don't want to be is on a climb. Again, if you're on a climb and you see a group coming up behind you, and you're a slower rider, get out of their way, right? It's just the considerate thing to do, because these people are working hard as a team, and you're on your own. Don't disrupt what they're trying to do. Let's see. Let's see if I got. Now, the other thing is when we're. I'm sorry, I've gotten lost here. What was I going to say? Oh, now, if your group is climbing and it starts breaking apart on a climb, the leaders may not be able to see what's going on behind them because they're not looking. But if your group starts fragmenting, along the climb, call up to the leaders and ask them to control the pace. All right, so that's something that's just readily easy to do. And not unaccepted. So again, keeping the group together is more important. So the people on the front, they're not turning around looking, so they got to know if their pace is too hard on the climb, or if the group is blowing up and there's people being shot out the back down here, and you're trying to ride as a group. Let the leaders know to control the pace. All right, so I think that's covers climbing, descending, and pace. And that's kind of all I got, I guess, on that topic right now. So, all right, so those are some things you can apply right away next time you're out on a group ride, and some kind of knowledge and etiquette to make you one of the best climbers in the group and one that doesn't disrupt it. So this is Max. Please subscribe to my channel, and I don't know, more videos coming soon.